World News Digest, October 14th, 2025. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we break down the world's biggest stories without the fluff. And wow, do we have a packed show today? We're talking hostage releases in the Middle East, a massive Taylor Swift announcement that Swifties are losing their minds over, SpaceX literally reaching for the stars, and a trade war that's making Wall Street sweat bullets. Plus, elections, prison escapes, and enough political drama to fill a Netflix series. Let's dive into today's top 8 stories. And hey, stick around till the end because we want to hear your take on these stories in the comments. Story 1, Israel hostage release. All right, let's start with some genuinely good news coming out of the Middle East. And trust me, we don't get to say that often enough. President Trump was in Israel today addressing the Knesset, that's the Israeli parliament, celebrating what he's calling a major diplomatic victory. Hamas has just released the final 13 living hostages under a peace deal that Trump's administration brokered. These are the last living hostages from the group that's been held since the conflict began, and families are finally being reunited after what's been an absolute nightmare. Trump's speech emphasized America's role in bringing everyone home, and regardless of where you stand politically, seeing families reunited is something we can all appreciate. The question everyone's asking now is, what does this mean for long-term peace in the region? The deal includes provisions beyond the hostages, but we'll have to wait and see if this marks a real turning point or just a temporary ceasefire. Story 2, Taylor Swift Disney Pun. Okay, switching gears completely here. Swifties, are you ready for this? Taylor Swift just dropped a bombshell announcement that's breaking the internet. Remember the Eras tour that literally broke Ticketmaster and became the highest-grossing tour in history? Well, it's coming to Disney Plus in December, and it's not just one movie. It's a 6-part documentary series. Plus, we're getting a separate concert film from her final show. This is massive because the Eras tour was a cultural phenomenon that we honestly might not see again in our lifetimes. We're talking about a tour that impacted local economies wherever she performed and brought together multiple generations of fans. The documentary series is rumored to include behind-the-scenes footage, the creative process, and the absolute insanity of putting together a 3.5-hour show night after night. Mark your calendars for December, because Disney Plus just became mandatory viewing for millions of fans worldwide. Story 3, from pop culture to space exploration, because why not? SpaceX launched Starship Flight 11 yesterday evening, and if you missed it, you missed something absolutely incredible. This is the mega rocket that's supposed to eventually take humans to Mars, and each test flight gets us closer to that sci-fi future we've all been dreaming about. Liftoff happened at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, and this test was crucial for several reasons. SpaceX has been iterating on the design rapidly, like they're moving at a pace that makes NASA look like it's standing still. Each flight tests new technologies, new landing techniques, and gets them closer to a fully reusable rocket system. Why should you care? Because reusable rockets dramatically drop the cost of space travel. We're talking about making space accessible in ways that were pure fantasy just a decade ago. Whether it's satellite internet, space tourism, or eventually colonizing other planets, Starship is the vehicle that's supposed to make it happen. The footage is stunning, so if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. Now let's talk about something that's probably going to affect your wallet. The US-China trade war is entering a new phase. Starting tomorrow, new port fees are kicking in that could raise costs even further on Chinese goods. And before you think this doesn't affect you, remember that a huge percentage of products Americans buy every day come from China or pass through supply chains connected to China. Here's where it gets interesting. Trump made a bet that China would face tremendous difficulties without American consumers. But according to reports from Fortune, Beijing basically said, "Hold my tea," and diversified to the rest of the world instead. Chinese exports are actually growing significantly despite the trade war because they've been building relationships with markets in Africa, South America, Southeast Asia, and Europe. Meanwhile, CNBC is reporting that Dow futures jumped 400 points after Trump posted on Truth Social, suggesting maybe he won't follow through with his threat of massive tariff increases. So basically, Wall Street is on a roller coaster, businesses are scrambling, and consumers are caught in the middle. Story 5. 3:30 transition. Let's head down to the Big Easy for some election results. New Orleans just elected Helena Moreno as their new mayor. She's a Democrat and current city council member who won the race to succeed LaToya Cantrell. And if you've been following New Orleans politics, you know Cantrell's second term has been, let's say, eventful. We're talking about a tenure shadowed by federal corruption charges and various controversies that had residents ready for change. Moreno ran on a platform of transparency, public safety reform, and economic development, pretty much the opposite approach from what came before. New Orleans faces some serious challenges: infrastructure issues, crime, recovery from various hurricanes, and maintaining its cultural identity while promoting economic growth. Moreno's got her work cut out for her, but she's stepping into the role with a mandate for change. This is also significant because it's another data point in the larger story of local elections that are really shaping the future of American cities more than national politics in some ways. Story 6, China's trade strategy. Okay, we've got to circle back to the China trade situation because there's another angle here that's fascinating from a global economics perspective. While the U.S. has been trying to isolate China economically, Beijing has basically been playing 4D chess. They've been aggressively courting trade partners across Asia, Africa, and South America through their Belt and Road Initiative and other programs. The result? China's export market is thriving despite American tariffs. They've reduced their dependency on the U.S. market, while American companies and consumers are dealing with higher costs and supply chain disruptions. This is what's called strategic diversification, and it's working. Fortune's reporting that China's trade expansion has been so successful that they're actually in a stronger position than many analysts predicted when the trade war started. What does this mean for America? Well, it means that trade wars aren't as simple as we're the bigger market, so we have all the leverage. In a globalized world, there are always other buyers. It's a lesson in international economics playing out in real time. Story 7, Market Volatility Aftuj. Speaking of economic uncertainty, let's talk about what happened with the stock market. Dow futures absolutely jumped. We're talking 400 points after Trump posted on Truth Social that the China situation will all be fine. Now, whether you think it's good or bad that the president can move markets with social media posts, the fact is, that's the reality we're living in. Investors had been bracing for Trump to announce a massive increase in tariffs on China. When his posts suggested he might be backing away from that, traders breathed a collective sigh of relief and started buying again. But here's the thing about market volatility driven by social media posts. It's unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Companies can't plan long-term strategies when policy might change with a single post. Investors are essentially gambling on presidential mood swings. This is creating what economists call uncertainty premium. Basically, the extra cost of doing business when you can't predict what the rules will be next week. And guess who ultimately pays that cost? Yep, consumers. The big question now is whether Trump's post represents an actual policy shift or if he's just trying to calm markets temporarily. Wall Street is watching very, very carefully. Story 8, Guatemala prison escape. And finally, we need to talk about a really concerning security situation in Guatemala. 20 members of Barrio 18, a gang that the U.S. has designated as a foreign terrorist organization, escaped from prison. Let me say that again. 20 members of a terrorist-designated gang are now on the loose. The U.S. Embassy in Guatemala condemned this as utterly unacceptable, which is diplomatic speak for, this is a massive security failure. Barrio 18 is one of the most violent gangs in Central America, involved in everything from drug trafficking to extortion to murder. Prison escapes of this scale don't just happen. They require either massive security failures or inside help, or both. Guatemala is already dealing with serious gang violence problems, and having 20 dangerous criminals on the loose isn't going to make things better. This also has implications for U.S. immigration and border security policy, since these gangs operate across borders. When stability breaks down in Central America, it creates ripple effects that reach all the way to the U.S. southern border. Guatemalan authorities are conducting a manhunt, but in a country where gangs have significant influence, recapturing these escapees won't be easy. All right, everyone. That's your World News Digest for October 14th, 2025. We covered everything from diplomatic breakthroughs in the Middle East to Taylor Swift breaking the internet, SpaceX reaching for Mars, trade wars reshaping the global economy, local elections, market volatility, and security concerns in Central America. That's a lot for one day. Now here's what I want from you. Which of these stories do you think will have the biggest impact in the coming weeks? Are you Team Tariff or Team Free Trade? And Swifties, are you excited for that documentary series? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, smash that like button and subscribe for daily news coverage that actually makes sense. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss tomorrow's stories. I'm reading through every comment, so let's have a real conversation about what's happening in our world. Thanks for watching, stay informed, and I'll see you tomorrow with more news. Screen, show subscribe button, previous videos, and social media links. Read time 6 to 7 minutes. Notes for production. Add relevant B-roll footage for each story. Include lower third graphics with key facts. Use background music that shifts with tone, serious for political news, upbeat for entertainment. Add jump cuts to maintain energy. Include reaction graphics animations during the Swift and SpaceX segments. Show relevant social media posts, Trump's Truth Social, Taylor's announcement. End screen should appear during final 15 seconds.